Thank you for purchasing the Abayah style tunic pattern made by Bashir Harvey, owner of Bashir Made It. We are so excited that you're going to be making this lovely design and including her into your wardrobe. Be sure to have fun, and we thank you. So let's get started. What you're looking at is the pattern cover, which includes suggested types of fabric, the recommended yardage, sewing supplies, and the size guide that we go by. As a small business, that we ask that you please do not reproduce or resell this pattern. So what you're looking at are pattern pieces 1 and 2, the front and back of the abaya. Both are cut 1 on fold, and they already include a 1/2 inch seam allowance with markings and notches and dots listed on each pattern piece. And next you're looking at pattern pieces 3 and 4. 3 is the band and it's cut 2 on fold. And pattern piece number 4 is the pocket, which is cut 1 on fold, or you can cut 1 on a single layer of fabric with the pocket piece opened out. And lastly, you have pattern pieces number 5 and 6. Piece number 5 is the sleeve, which is cut 2. And piece number 6 is the cowl neck, which is cut 1 on fold of the main fabric and optional cut 1 on fold of the contrast fabric. Okay, and so what you're looking at are the pattern pieces cut out. You're looking at cut 1 on fold of the front. And the reason for the tape measure and the scissor is just to give you an idea of proportion. And at any point throughout this video, feel free to stop it, pause it, fast forward, or rewind. And what you're looking at is piece number 2, which is the back, cut 1 on fold. Okay, so what you're looking at next is the band, which is piece number 3, and it's cut 2 on fold. Piece number 4, which is the pocket, cut 1 on fold. And this is what the pocket looks like opened out. Next you have piece number 5, which is the sleeve, and it's cut 2 on fold. And this is what it looks like opened out. And lastly, piece number 6, which is the cowl neck. So it's cut 1 on fold of the main fabric and optional cut 1 on fold of the contrast fabric. First, we have to prepare our pocket piece by folding back a 1/2 inch of the curved edge and pressing it down or pinning it in place and then stitching it. And this is what it looks like up close. Next, along the straight edges of the pocket, you're going to fold back a 1/2 inch and you're going to press it up. Okay, great. So now that you have your pocket prepared, you're going to place it matching the dots on your front piece and pin it in place. And next you are going to be sure that your dots are matching the corner of the pocket for placement. And this is a close-up. Okay, so now that the pocket is stitched down, and so you should have stitched along the outer edges of the straight sides of the pocket. And what I like to do is sometimes I'll double stitch the edge and include the little tab as just a fashion statement, which is purely optional and not included in this pattern. Okay, so next you'll be attaching your band to the front and back pieces, pin it in place and stitch. Again, as a reminder, your seam allowance is a 1/2 inch. And next you will be joining the shoulders of the front and back of the abaya pieces with right sides together, pin in place and stitch along the edge a 1/2 inch. And next you're going to be joining your sleeve to the side of the abaya at the shoulder seam. So the sleeve has a notch in it and you will match the notch to the seam of the abaya. And it looks something like this. You can go on and pin it in place and then stitch it. And it will look something like this. Okay, great. So these next few pictures are just at the sleeve, just showing you what it looks like with the seam allowance of the sleeve turned back. And what you're going to do is you're going to snip right towards the end of the sleeve band close to the thread, but not stitching, not clipping through the thread. So be careful. And this is what it would look like. Okay, great. And so this is what it will look like with the sleeve flipped out. Okay, next we are going to prepare our cowl neck. So that's the main fabric. And with the fabric folded and the notches together, you're going to create like a cylinder effect. You're going to pin that straight edge, that raw cut edge, pin it all the way down and stitch it. And you're going to do the same for the contrast fabric, which isn't shown here. And this is what it should look like. Okay, so what you're going to do here is, if you choose to use the contrast fabric with right sides together, you're going to actually stuff the contrast fabric into the main fabric and be sure to match the back seams as such. And pin around the opening. Okay, and it's going to look like this. Okay, great. So you're going to flip your cowl neck out, and this is what it's going to look like. So the wrong sides will be together and the right sides will be out. And at this point you have the option to press around the outer edge of the cowl neck. Okay, so now you're getting ready to pin the cowl neck to the joint pieces, the front and back. So to the right, you're going to be looking at, that's the front with the deeper curve, and the seam of the cowl neck is going to match the back notch as such. And so here it is from a different angle. Feel free to adjust it as you need to be comfortable in order to stuff the cowl neck in place. At this point, you may need to stretch either the cowl neck or the neck opening for it to fit comfortably. Okay, so this is what it looks like once you pin it in place. You may need to stuff the cowl neck inside and pin it that way. Figure out what works best for you, whatever is easier. Okay, so on the sewing machine, what you can do to make it easier stitching around the neck opening is, if your sewing machine has an arm on there, you can remove the panel and it will just make it easier going around in a circular motion. Again, 1/2 inch seam allowance. And this is what it's going to look like. And this is just a close-up of the seam allowance and showing the notch. That notch is the center back of the cowl neck, which is your back of the abaya. Okay, great. So we're almost done. We're halfway there. Okay, or a little bit more than halfway. And so this is what the cowl neck looks like, just pulled out. And one thing that I've forgotten to mention is throughout this video and throughout your construction, you can trim your seam allowance or you can serge it if you're able to. But what's nice about using knits is you don't technically have to serge. But for a professional finish, you can clean the edges by either trimming or serging or zigzagging. All right, so this is what it's gonna look like from the inside. So now the last step is to stitch, or right now you're gonna pin from the edge of the sleeve, pin it all the way down and around, all the way down to the marking where you're going to create your slit opening, which is optional. If you don't want to have a slit opening, you can just stitch it all the way down. Okay, and what you're looking at is the slit opening spread out, and you're going to fold back the 1/2 inch seam allowance and pin in place. Okay, great. So go on and stitch it all the way down and around. And this is what it's going to look like. Once you have stitched the slit opening, you're now going to turn it right side out. And that's it. It looks like you're done. So if you are choosing not to hem it, that's perfectly fine depending on the fabric that you use. Or if you choose to hem it, you'll see illustrations on how to do a rolled hem. Go on and press it, make it nice and neat. And you are done. Voila, finito. That's it. Thank you so very much. Please give me your feedback. Let me know. I'm looking forward to sharing more of my patterns, making them available to you. And there you have it, the Abayah style tunic made by Bashira Harvey of Bashira Made It. Stay tuned, take care, and happy sewing.